So let me try this. Mina, olen, Mike. That's, I think, my only few Estonian words that I can speak. It's a very pleasure to be here. So also in case you have some questions or you don't understand my English not, just feel free then to ask also. Today there's a lot of talk about doubling efficiency and tripling renewables. So what does this actually mean? And by the way, also Estonia signed up for the 132 countries that end of last year pledged to do so over the next 6 years. So I'm going to speak today a bit about it. What does it mean, and also what we can do in industries. I was actually personally a bit surprised that in the keynote speeches before that there was not more also around sustainability and decarbonization, except the taxation that will come. But we have obviously also solutions how you can avoid also on these things. And I think it's a very important topic. It's also, I'm personally very passionate speaking about it. As we know as well, or what we heard before, is that globally the economy will double as well by 2040 actually, and in Estonia even committed to 2035 to double. And that brings a challenge also at the same time with the energy transition that we are in. Anyone has an idea what is the energy consumption in percentage in Estonia of buildings and industries together? Is it 25%? Is it 45%? Or is it 65%? Who goes for the 25%? Just raise the hand. Who goes for the 45%? And who goes for the 65%? It's 45% actually. And it's a coincidence that if we look from a global perspective, just a simple example, ABB is market leader in manufacturing motors. All industrial motors globally consume as well 45% of the worldwide produced energy. It's massive if we look at this from this angle. So who has actually this energy efficiency movement and so on? So let me talk a bit about it, and also about the energy efficiency first principle, which is actually also on this doubling efficiency topic. The energy efficiency first principle basically tells in simple words, look, before we do any investment into new resources or energy sources, for example, let's apply energy efficient technologies that we have today before we again going to expand. That's pretty in a nutshell. ABB introduced the energy efficiency movement in 2021 with the idea to promote energy efficiency and the technology around it. This is nothing new in that sense, but it started then getting some traction. First company that joined was Alfa Laval. Some of you may know them in the space of heat exchangers. And they said, that's actually a good idea. So how can we join and how can we contribute? As per today, we are close to 500 companies that joined the movement. The movement is at the end doing two things. It's about best practice sharing in the space of energy efficiency, and it's about knowledge sharing in the space of energy efficiency. The big vision is to become a voice of industry related to energy efficiency. Have you known that energy efficiency is actually, before renewable, the biggest contributor to reach net zero by 2050? We, from our side, from ABB's perspective, we take this opportunity and also do our contribution for the greater good. Out of these 500 companies, we have large corporates, like mentioned Alfa Laval, we have Microsoft, everybody knows them. We have DHL, we have, but also in the manufacturing side, like Flowserve. But we also have even competitors of our side, like Danfoss, that joined the movement. The message here is about we can do it together. And this is important, because if everybody is just looking on their own and try to optimize, we will never be able to speed up and catch up with it. So even from Estonia, the company that joined first the movement more than a year ago, or almost a year ago, was Tallin. And I was amazed when I visited Estonia last year in October here, and kind of about their commitment as well and their understanding, being it in optimizing old cruise liners or vessels with higher efficient propellers that they can get 10% out of it. So this is what we can do today at the end to save energy, reduce cost, and obviously also to contribute towards lower carbon emission. This is just a picture. Some of you may have heard about the Sustainable Development Goals. This is more about in the big picture. The good thing is energy efficiency contributes to at least around 6 of them. It's not only about making energy available for everyone, but it's also about making the cities more comfortable in the way how we live, make them more sustainable, or partnerships for the greater goal, and so on. So there are many, many interactions that this topic can play a crucial role. So let me now speak a bit about more concrete. So what can you do also on your side, and what we can do as a society? We have released end of last year, just ahead of COP, the case for industrial energy efficiency. This document has been prepared together with Microsoft and Alfa Laval, and it actually looks into 3 pillars. It's about building an efficiency foundation, it's about drive efficiency returns, and gain efficiency insights. And irrespective of what are now the subcategories of this one, I think these 3 pillars, if you take those with you and implement it in your daily case, I think you already are on the right track. The big message from this research was that with 10 actions, we can save by 2030 11% of CO2. So what does this mean? Let's take an example. That's roughly 60% of the combustion engine cars that is polluting currently also the economy. It's massive. The question is always, how can we do this? And what do we now need to do? I think we can start already on our side, either through our products or within our own facilities. And it's great to see that obviously Estonia is also doubling the economy. So let me give you an insight into the first topic around efficiency foundation. We heard it in the keynote speech, some topics around digitalization and so on. Yes, it goes towards this one. It's more about the enablement. The simple starting point is starting with an audit. So if you know where you have inefficiency or where you have gains, that's already a good direction, because that's the foundation of whatever you will do afterwards. So if you go for an audit, for example, it's roughly, depending a bit obviously on country and so on, but it's roughly 1% of your annual energy cost that you have to invest into an audit. There is a recommendation to do this every 3 years roughly, that you have a better understanding, where are you and so on. It's like a stock take of your own asset. It's not a big effort. It's 2-3 days, and we are all in our private houses. We all know nowadays, obviously, we're forced. You only go for LED lights and so on. That's just a simple one. But this is exactly in an audit. You will understand where you have the inefficiencies. For example, as well, that 50% of the industrial building heat that you put in or energy that you put in is at the end of the day wasted. So there's a huge potential as well in the whole heat recovery of building systems. The second is about then also that you make sure that your devices at the discrete level are connectable, to understand as well what does this mean, where do we stand. A few years back when we had this IoT boom, the reason for it at that time was mainly around, let's make sure that we know how do we avoid any downtime or loss of production, and then we gather a lot of data points. Nowadays, the data points can be used to save energy at the end of the day. You know which pump is running, you know which fan has to run, you know at which speed they have to run. And that's, I think, the insight that we have on this one here. If we go now a bit more into the discrete element where we talk about the products at the end of the day, this is what you can do in the efficiency returns that you basically at the end look at it as an invest. And when I came here, I actually also looked up once the energy cost of Estonia, and I was actually surprised. If you look for what is the cost of a megawatt hour in Estonia, it's in the upper 20% of the European Union countries. So there is massive potential at the end of the day as well when it comes to productivity, that if you have a high cost of energy, that you make sure you don't waste it. So you'll focus on your efficiency gain. Even the return on invest is much better. But on the other hand, a survey that we did 2 years ago, and we're currently doing a second one to understand the delta, is about what are the biggest barriers to go for these kind of low-hanging fruits. Because for this, we don't need any regulations to install solar or renewables and so on, which may take decades. We all want to achieve this 2050 goal. The biggest barrier is obviously still cost. Even though in our mathematical rationale, the return on invest of some of these goods are within 1 year, 2 years, or actually 3 years. So these are just some numbers, and it's more about the magnitude. It's not about the detail that the survey, that the research brought out that we released end of last year. So if you go, for example, for more higher efficient motors in your appliances, and that does not matter now if it's this 0.5% more or not, it's about the direction. At the global scale, 300 megatons CO2 can be saved, as well as 45.8 billion in terms of return on invest. So this is, again, it gives you the magnitude. But if you go, for example, for motors, then also look at it from a bigger picture. What is the ecosystem around there? And also, are there funds from government that help these elements to support also in your facilities? There are more and more funds coming, and take advantage of those. So if you go for it, also look into what you can equip with a frequency converter, because that's the big gain. For example, if you install them today, between 20 and 25% of motors are equipped with a frequency converter. That's very little. If we bring this up to 40%, then we see significant improvement. And this is also, at the end of the day, it brings down your operational cost, because it's not only that the invest at the beginning, but it's also the wear and tear of the products. It brings down the CO2 of the operation. All these equipments, usually the biggest CO2 production comes during operating time. These equipments, they last for 20 plus years. So let's make it from the beginning, and let's not look at it from a short cycle business. The same also around efficient heat exchanger. I had yesterday the pleasure to speak with Stargate Hydro from Estonia here. Also in their environment, when they produce hydrogen, the efficiency goes down over lifetime. And this is in the heat exchanger environment even more drastically. So maintaining these heat exchangers is critical to bring or to make sure that the efficiency level stays at the high level. Just an example here, and obviously I could have taken now one from Tallin, but I already mentioned Tallin. But this one is a practical example, because if we look into Metsä Board in Sweden, so they have done a few years back a minor upgrade on their motors. So they have equipped 6 30 kilowatt motors. They have replaced them and equipped them also with a frequency converter. They have saved at the end 60% of their energy. So that's a saving of 83,000 kilowatt hours annually, which is equal to around 10 households. Why do I make this comparison also with these 10 households? As I mentioned before, we quite often speak about LED upgrades and so on. Yes, that's absolutely important, and we should do this. But the big impact, can you contribute from the industrial side? Because with just 6 motors, and these are not big motors, you can really make the difference in the saving. We can replace more or less all the light bulbs on Earth with LEDs, but this is what the industrial side can contribute. And then it has also a financial benefit. This is unique. So we are in this unique environment. Let's take the advantage of it. If we look then into the last element about the insights, so we have done the audit. We have actually also done the right sizing of the assets. That's another element. Quite often when we either sell because of regulations or requirements or specifications, or when we then install, we realize every equipment in this value chain has a safety margin on top. So at the end, quite many installations are at the end of the day, from a system perspective, over-dimensioned. So we understand, is the asset rightly designed and is it also rightly in use? We have potentially upgraded our installation or our future operation with high efficient products, and they are, by the way, all around. So it's not an innovation what I'm speaking here. This is really just walking the talk. And now it comes about, what do we do with it? So it's about the data that we gain. It's about data connectivity. And just one example here is, for example, in the building management systems, that around 75% of the buildings are constructed before the year 2000. And that means all these buildings, they have a lot of automation already in there. However, they are not smart in that sense. You may have there a possibility to switch or to switch off all the lights or to close all the blinds. But this is not where we can really make a difference. They have the base, but if we equip buildings also much more, and this you can do it on your own manufacturing facility, on your plant level, with smart automation, then we can also save energy at the end of the day. So equipping a building can save around up to 25%. And by the way, one thing that I wanted to mention as well, that the worldwide produced energy is usually consumed by 4 applications. Motors, I mentioned, cooling, and this is obviously refrigerators, HVAC, cooling, heating, and light. So by only 4 applications, 50%. This is massive. And we can all do it today, where we are in. Another interesting point is about this data, and as mentioned, we had Microsoft here, so obviously data was key on this one. The research showed that there is actually at the beginning no direct financial benefit of moving data to cloud, even though we have it today everywhere. You know, we can access the data through the mobile phone and so on. So, but the benefit is more on the long term that we will gain. A few years ago, many companies, they still had their own remote servers or their servers, in-house servers, so data hosted inside. But if we move data to clouds, and this will then be an interesting when we look into this Fit for 55, what we heard before as well, because if you're a pure data center provider, you have the opportunity to optimize within your scope the energy consumption and also the CO2 footprint, because then you can go, for example, for green energy of cooling the data centers and so on. So this is the big advantage by moving data to cloud. Also for us as industries, you outsource more or less your cooling challenge to others that are doing this on a daily basis. And I think this is at the end of the day also a bit the message here. We should not do everything within our own premises. So where it makes sense, let's do this. And I had yesterday the opportunity as well to speak with Harry, and he asked me also the question about, what should we do in terms of, what is my opinion in terms of renewables or nuclear energy and so on. I say the most critical element is that we make sure how do we use the energy from its source to its production, and that we waste as less as possible. To build a nuclear power plant is, from a CO2 perspective, actually beneficial. However, it takes years. To build a wind park, what I also heard is also a challenge in this country. And I come from Switzerland. We try to build wind parks at the mountains everywhere, and solar parks. It's very difficult to get the approval through it and at the end to do something. So that means we will have a growing urbanization. We will have potentially a growing people that are that we have more and more people on Earth, but we will have most likely less energy, or not more than what we have today, and the network becomes much more volatile. So let's take care on this one. So what I would like to say in the sum up of the discussion, and then we have also some time for questions, is really, if you go back, look into these 3 pillars. Set the foundation, drive efficiency return where you can do it, and then also gain efficiency insights. A key success, and I speak to many companies, as said, it's not to all the 500 obviously, but to many companies that we have part of the movement. And by the way, you can also join us just as a sales pitch in that sense. But I think one of the success factors is to make it successful, start at the top of the organization. Any invest that you're doing, ask the question, what can we save? The return on invest can be very, very short. Investing in a small motor can be less than 1 year, or investing into heat pumps can be between 3 to 5 years the return on invest, especially if the energy prices are at the upper range what we have here. And this Swedish example, this return on invest there was 18 months. And that's at the country that has one of the lowest energy costs within Europe. So look at it as a transformational project. If you approach the topic, make sure you appoint someone as well that walks around with the flag and is Mr. Efficiency, not in terms of process efficiency, that obviously comes on top as well, but really from an energy consumption. And look at it across the organization. It's not only at the plant level or at the factory floor. It's also when you invest into new IT systems. So make these double checks and walk the talk from the top. As a reminder, energy efficiency is the biggest lever to reach net zero targets. And we will see costs will come more and more, what we heard earlier today as well, in the space of CO2, tax emissions and so on. So let's be here on the faster side. Let's be on the front runner. Estonia is a very innovative country, so let's keep the pace up. And yes, and then that was it basically from my side as a small inspirational insight. Obviously, we will also have in the slide deck, not sure how they will be shared, but there are some other cases. Feel free to visit also the webpage. It's energyefficiencymovement.com. It's really a contribution at the end for the greater good, for our planet, for our environment, and I hope that we can also meet the target by 2050 while doubling the economy. Thank you.
Questions? Just raise your hand.
Don't be shy.
Okay.
I mean, the lunch starts in 10 minutes, I think, so we have 10 minutes time.
Jukka wants to ask.
So, thanks, Mike. Maybe to ask, most of these companies which you showed are quite big ones. What about the mid-sized companies, small-sized companies? What kind of questions or discussions you have with them to support this topic or take up this topic more?
Yeah, very, very good question. It's a bit twofold. So we have a lot of small-sized companies that are, that joined the idea and said, hey, this is actually great, and how can we contribute? Many small size, they look at it more from a selling perspective, like, hey, how can I take an advantage with my products where I'm in? It's less on the operational side. However, when we look also at the operational side, many small countries are not yet at an advanced level to look into being it on the sustainability picture at the bigger term, or also when it comes then to the efficiency side. I think there is still a lot of improvement that can be done. Maybe a question into the room: how many have done in your own facility an energy audit during the last 2 years? So this is exactly what we can see here. It's an opportunity. It's low cost, but you understand at the beginning like where you are on your own facility. So therefore, I think I have many discussions which is more about how can I sell and what do I sell. And as we are in the industrial environment, most of our products, even the one from ABB, the biggest impact in terms of CO2 is during lifetime. So if we take an example from a motor, it's 98% or whatever CO2 emission is during lifetime. It's not at the production level. However, I think it's important to walk the talk already within your own facility. And I think this is where we are and what we can obviously see and do. So I think this is also where we could start. And it's not a big effort. You can do an energy audit by just walking through and understanding. You can do a bit more extensive audit where you collect data sheets of your facility production equipment, or you can even use data that you may have already gathered through more connected systems.
Questions? Okay. Mike, you mentioned that you have 500 members or stakeholders participating in this movement. Can you open up a little bit about the profiles of companies? What industries are dominating among your members?
Yeah. So good question. So what we see first of all many manufacturers. So it's really the drive is a business reason. At the first stage, though they also have their own energy bill. So that's kind of throughout the bench. So most of them are manufacturers. If we look industry-wise, we do have many in the discrete range. We don't have too many in the cement, mining, which are really kind of the heavy CO2 polluters. But we have it cross industries. It's from food and beverage to water. We have quite many in the water industry sector. We have, as said, a very selected ones in the cement industry. And for us, it's really interesting to understand what have they done to bring down the energy? What are they working on to bring down the energy costs at their level, and at the end of the day also the CO2. So it's very diverse. It's across the globe. It's many countries are there. I think the majority is sitting within Europe. If we go cross, I mean, I would say US, Europe, and then Asia, they are almost equally from company that joined. And I think it's also an opportunity to kind of collaborate and you have the same dialogue. It's not about only the products as such, it's about how have you done it within your own facility. So it's also an invitation. You can go to the webpage, you see the companies there. Try also to it's always a possibility to reach out to those companies as well and just ask them, hey, I'm in the same segment, I'm in the same application. What have you done to bring down your costs and so on? So that's a bit also the idea here of the movement as such.
Do you see also regional patterns? Who are the most open-minded about this topic? I mean, countries, for example.
Yeah, I usually say Europe has been kind of learned it the hard way because obviously of the energy crisis that started a few years back. So I think Europe is pretty advanced in terms of the understanding and also in terms of the investing side. Asia is a bit in the mix, so there it really depends which country, and US is there a bit also is on the lagging side, because there it's really closely connected to policy and obviously also to fund. Energy prices are there naturally also a bit lower. However, once then also these carbon taxes will be implemented, then it's not only a price tag at that sense. Then it's really also a question about how much contribution do you do. And I think to the question also from Yuka before, the smaller companies, first of all, they will still grow and they can learn from the larger one as well. Larger companies have their scope 1 and 2 production and also scope 3 implications in the meantime part of their financial reports. So it will come and it will go. But I think Europe has a good opportunity to speed up. I think from a regulation point of view, let's not make it too complicated. I think we are all mature enough. So let's see the benefit of doing these things rather than overcomplicating it by a lot of policies and enforcing a lot of policies. So I think the evidences are there, and therefore let's just do it. What we have seen, especially in Europe, 2 years ago when we did the first time the survey, we have seen that beside cost, the fearness of downtime to look into these topics has been higher than what we will see in the new research that comes down. So that means at the same time that the awareness has been growing, and also to the acceptance that yes, I may need to shut down maybe my shop floor for 1 or 2 days or whatever when I do these upgrades or when I do these audits, then it's better there. So I see a positive momentum, and I hope that we can also see then this in the overall results.
I think we have one time for one more question. Anybody wants to ask something? Use the time. Mike is here.
Everybody's
okay.
hungry.
One last question. How much do you hear the word it's too expensive, or the money problem in this field, that we cannot invest, or what managers say about these investments?
It is there. And I think it's also a topic at which level, and therefore I was mentioning before, let's tackle these topics at the rather senior level, at the management level, also of small companies, and don't push it to the shop floor. Because if you give this target to your operational manager that should bring down the cost or whatever, and then at the end he needs to decide what he should do, should he continue to run with the equipment that he has, or should he go for an upgrade and so on, that's not the right level. If you look at it, especially if you are an owner of the company as such, the mathematical return on invest are evident. And also look for what financial support can be given by innovation funds, by sustainability funds, and so on. It's sometimes not so easy to see through these things, but take advantage of it. And as said, I think that the return on invest financially is obvious. So therefore I see mixed. Depends really a bit. Are you an owner of a company? Or are you an operator of a company at an operational level, or what is your short to mid-term targets? But the opportunities are there.
Okay, anybody? Maybe one last question? Raise your hand. No. Mike, thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you for listening.
Inspiration.